Thank you guys for sticking around. If there's still some of you here, this is the last panel of the day. I'm with the best thought leaders. My name is Jennifer Chang Lo, and we're here with, in order of our pictures, Gary, co-founder and CEO of Terminal 3. I will be filling in for Edward and myself today. I'm Jennifer, founder and chair of Nushi Capital Family Office. We have Noel Gahan, am I pronouncing it right? Gahan, founder and CMO of Insight Genesis. And I have Lance, who is the director of AI and data for Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation. So we have a lot of ecosystem leaders and thought leaders here for you today. I divide up my panel. I know everyone is running low on energy. And we're being as inclusive to the amazing questions. We have actually about 50 questions prepared. I will save 2 minutes at the end. So this is the format today. We're going to have a small opening. It'll take 3 minutes. Then we'll do a section on innovation, including frontiers of AI, human-AI collaboration, barriers to equitable innovation. Then we're going to do section 2 on ethics, bias and fairness, responsible deployment, human autonomy. And section 3 will be governance, global cooperation, standards and regulation, corporate accountability. And the final section will be looking forward, the long horizon, and I'll be asking all of our panelists, what's next? So without further ado, I'm going to go and let everyone do self-intros, and then I'll come to me. So I'm going to start with, you know what, ladies first. Because we don't want to be invisible in AI. I've noticed some panels in both Web3 and AI where there's manels, all men. That's okay. Women in AI do exist. So I'm going to start with Noelle, who's the Chief Marketing Officer. And she's done a lot in terms of the blockchain, DeFi, and emerging technology space. She's previously at a friend's company as well, Laguna Labs. And then she was also had a stint at Huawei. So worked a lot in C-suite. I'm going to actually pass it over to you, Noelle, to finish your intro.
Hi, my name is Noelle. Right now, I'm a co-founder and CMO of a Web3 AI company, Insight Genesis. I've been in Web3 and DeFi for the last 6 years. Started my career in Web3 with a layer 1 blockchain, and it was in the good old days. We raised $40 million in 6 months on an ICO. So it was 2021. And before that, I was Web 2. I never used to use the word Web 2 until I moved into Web 3. But before that, I was with Web 2 with tech companies like Cisco and those type of companies. I've been also in sailing for about 5 years. And I've got a lot of engineering degrees. That's about it.
OK. I'm going to introduce, you know what, Gary, since you came last minute, I'm just going to save you last. Just kidding. But he was actually very punctual. He made it just in time for our very inclusive panel. So I'm going to, and you guys all have some really amazing, so I'm going to introduce Lance, because he was here and waiting about an hour before. He got here by foot. So he walked all the way from Central, I think. And he's having a assistive device. So later on, if you're interviewing him, come to Lance. Don't have him walk around the place. OK. So Lance is a data and AI governance leader. He's part of the HKSTP, very illustrious program. I told you I'm surrounded by illustrious thought leaders. Wow is definitely saving the best for last here. And he has led territory-wide initiatives to accelerate data and AI adoption. He has the best in terms of SOPs, data lifecycle controls. He led the interbank account data sharing, and then previously was at the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, as well as global head of data governance and analytics at USN Logistics. Lots and lots here. I'm going to let him finish off his intro.
So to keep it short, yeah. So I'm basically a data protection officer in Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, and I do have experience in manufacturing, logistics, finance, stock exchange, and some other service provider as well. So, because I'm very happy to join this panel, because in HKSTP, so we have more than 2,500 companies right now, and honestly, like everyone entering HKSTP call themselves AI company already. So technically, we can say we have like 2,500 AI company, and
wow.
How are they going to innovate and govern their AI? Perhaps for us, as a data protection officer, we sometimes offer some advices. So they pretty much it. So happy to share more in the panel.
Amazing. You guys heard that. He has a few thousand companies under his arm, and since AI is a beyond buzzword now, it's part of all these companies' DNA and fabric, then you know who to talk to afterwards. And I will be talking to you all of you afterwards for collaborations. Finally, before I introduce, I think the counter is a little wrong. You should set it back at 35 minutes because we got on the stage 10 minutes earlier. Can whoever is in charge of the counter put it back to 35 minutes? Thank you. Otherwise, we can't get to all the questions. Hi. Yeah, setting it back to 35 minutes. Amazing. I'm going to introduce Gary now. Those of you who know Gary, I've known him for a while. I had a column in SCMP before. So those of you who don't know him and has worked for SCMP, he's actually the co-founder and CEO of Terminal 3. So riding the Web3 wagon, not the wagon, jumped on the bandwagon very early. And he's also chair of Web3 Harbor. So if you want to do like wide Bay and Belt Road initiatives, he's also someone to get to know. I also saw Jane wandering earlier. She's on another panel. So those of you who need to meet who is a mover and shaker here, you need to meet all of us and the people at the other panel on stage. Don't swarm us all. Okay. But he's also on the Hong Kong Government Web3 Task Force and the founder and board director of Artifact Labs, historical NFT company. And those of you who know me, you know I love collecting all the blue chip NFTs. I have Mike Punk around my neck and other things. He's also World Economic Forum Global Young Leader, and he grew up in
All right,
New Zealand.
all right, that's enough.
That's enough. Okay. Nothing left to introduce.
Thank you, though. That was very kind. I'm Gary. I have the privilege of running a company called Terminal 3. We're privacy infrastructure, and we work on identity protocols. And with AI in particular, we work on identity and credentials for artificial intelligence agents. I also have the privilege of chairing the Web3 Association here in Hong Kong called Web3 Harbor. We work very closely with the Hong Kong government and governments in the region on informed policies and regulations that help advance digital assets in the blockchain ecosystem. So glad to be here.
Thank you. Gary is awesome, very efficient, and I'm going to introduce myself now. But before I do, I'm going to shout out with my AI agent. So she's going to... Hi, this is the digital version of Jen. I'm wearing her on my shirt, too. And I'm wearing her around my neck. Jen Moonstar. Jen Moonstar, welcome everyone to the closing panel of WOW Summit. And please thank my illustrious panelists, Gary, Noel, and Lance. I'm going to say that, and then I'll introduce myself.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be part of the closing panel at WOW Summit. Let's wrap up some insightful discussions. And then she said hi to all of you by name, but then now it's muffled, which is great. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Cheng Lo. I'm the founder director of New Chic Capital Family Office, which means new girl. I've invested after an IPO exit about a decade ago. There were 2 ICOs for the company. It became Crypto.com. I've led companies to 100 million to 150 million annually or even monthly because I am a veteran of Rackspace as well as other big tech companies. I'm an investor in now more than 300 companies and funds, and I do a lot for the region. I chaired the U.S. Consulate's Trade Summit. I'm also the first pianist on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and last year I was in 18 countries giving keynotes. I'm also an early investor in Pudgy Penguins. Early investor in AI since around 6 years ago. And we're going to talk today about really important things that make up the foundation of what we're going to be doing to move forward. So without further ado, we can talk about all that stuff afterwards. I'm going to open up the questions, and then I'm going to go through mine. So I'm going to ask you guys your questions of choice first, and then we'll proceed in the... Okay. So Noel, you had some really good I'm going to ask actually this question because I want her to define for us DataFi, the DataFi paradigm. Because, so the question is, there's certain ethical challenges we'll get to that arise when AI generates insights from decentralized data and how to address it. But also, I want you to talk about the DataFi paradigm, transforming data ownership, and define for us what is DataFi.
Okay, so we talk a lot about DataFi at the moment. It's the new buzzword. It's basically a decentralized data economy where users actually own, control, and monetize their data as opposed to big data companies or centralized data companies. So, typically in the DeFi space or the decentralized space, we want all users to own their data. It's not happening yet, but we believe that data is an asset, but it should be an asset that belongs to you. It shouldn't be an asset that belongs to big data. At the same time, this fuels a lot of AI innovation. So decentralization fuels AI innovation because it gives access to higher quality data, but also more importantly, it gives access to consented data. Because if you own the data, you actually control who gets to use it and who doesn't get to use it. And you can also monetize it by, if you give access to your data, then you can get paid for it. So consented data, so it gives better high quality data, consented data, and also data that is consistently updated on a continuous basis. So it moves us towards a world where users are empowered by their data instead of having data exploitation. So decentralization for us is a key feature, we believe is a key feature for AI innovation and ethics as well.
That's really great. I'm going to zoom out, and actually, that segues really nicely into one of the questions that Lance came up with. I'm going to zoom out from a macro point of view. Thank you from an individualized point of view. Data, privacy, ownership, all very important when it comes to AI and Web3 and our identity. I'm going to zoom out for a macro question from Lance, and then I'm going to zoom back in for Gary's question, and then I'm going to proceed along our framework. So from policy to practice, you've actually been in charge of enterprise data and AI governance frameworks across regulators, exchanges, startups. So what are the 3 controls you operationalize to move from the written framework to measurable day-to-day compliance from that scale?
Sure, thank you very much. Yeah, talking about like framework for AI, yeah, I think for us, because I've been working with Hong Kong Stock Exchange, HKMA, and also together in HKSTP. So we do have some experience in terms of how to tailor a framework. However, I think a lot of corporate outside, like they basically hire maybe the big consultancy firm to basically create a framework for them, but whether or not it's workable, I think sometimes I'm very skeptical about the practicality of those frameworks. Definitely, there's a lot worse, but doesn't mean they can be operationalized. So from my point of view, yeah, I think one of the key things when it comes to governance, not just about like AI, but actually data as well. Yeah, I think the operation model is very important. You know, I think if you look into, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Digital Policy Office, they also issue an ethical AI framework. And they actually require to have a steering committee to really assess the AI use case. But however, who has this in the organization? It's very difficult to do it. Even though you set up a governance framework or a committee to oversee all the AI use case, but however, maybe they're not the right person to do so. Because they could be like, they didn't have enough segregation of duty, because maybe they are the one who want to do the project anyway, so they may not have assessed it like objectively. So that's one thing, so the operation model. Another thing, which I think is very important, is classification. Yeah, because we're talking about, I'm very happy we talk about decentralization, and right now everyone can do AI. But how are you going to govern how they use AI? That's very difficult, and you cannot just review case by case.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to scalable, right? Because you want to drive adoption, but at the same time, you want to control. How are you going to do that? But one of the things that we do is that we classify the use case.
I actually really love what you're saying, Lance. From what I'm hearing, there's actually a large gap between what we want to do in practice and from an ideological point of view and from the execution, right? So I want to actually ask Gary a more specific question because we have had a huge proliferation of AI agents and we're going to delve more into like proof of humanity, personhood, etc. But as AI agents, because I do want to ask you this because it seems like everybody and their mother has an AI agent even though they shouldn't be, and we have AI trading bots. They're more and more capable of conducting autonomous transactions and actions and all these everything on our behalf, from travel, booking the day-to-day, executing trades. How do we ensure users and end users maintain true ownership and control over the personal data and government's frameworks that are needed to prevent a future where AI agents have uninhibited access to our private information, which is really true. Just yesterday on Crypto Twitter, we saw there was like a hacking Ledger CTO was like talking about it, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go lock down my agent too to make sure she's not like doing some random things. So I'm going to pose that to you, Gary, because that's very salient.
Yeah, sure. Let's start by clearly stating the problem.
Yeah.
In the AI agent stack, you have a bunch of key stakeholders. you have the large language models that are the foundational models that power the actual artificial intelligence agents. Then you have companies that are building the artificial intelligence agents, which are a tool, they're an application. Then you have companies that are actually deploying those AI agents. We often refer to those as operators. There's human beings that technically have control over what the AI agent is supposed to do. And at the end, you have the users, right? People who are interacting with these agents, who are relying on these agents to make autonomous decisions or complete transactions. At every step of the way, there is data leakage, data responsibility, and frankly speaking, there are data privacy and security issues. We currently have 0 regulations or policy frameworks anywhere in the world to guard against data problems across that entire stack. Now, why is that an issue? Artificial intelligence agents, well, companies as a whole, to Noel's point, already do a terrible job of securing our data as users.
Yep.
Not only do they not secure it on our behalf, because whenever they get hacked, they honestly don't care.
Yep.
But they trade on that data. Companies sell that data, they make a ton of money, we get no cut of it. That problem only gets exaggerated. It gets amplified by multitudes when it comes to AI agents. Because artificial intelligence agents, once they get hold of our data, they can do whatever they want with it with no accountability. We have absolutely no auditability of that. Not only can they leak that data, they can also start pretending to be us. And they can trade on that information and make autonomous decisions and transactions on our behalf that we have not actually authorized. We are starting to see this as a problem that is scaling. The problem is scaling far faster than the technology adoption is scaling. And of course, the solution scale doesn't even exist.
I love this. Actually, what Gary is talking about, which is also going to be great because that's actually a theme for us, is how do you control bad actors who are sometimes inadvertent bad actors? Because these agents are like, they can kind of do what they want. I'm not going to be talking about the ones that started tweeting racistly and other things. Like, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. But this actually is really good before we go into our innovation section. Because right now, what you illustrated so well, and what I think Noel and Lance have also alluded to, is when companies are early stage, as they scale up, some of the annoying little problems and inefficiencies, they also scale up without the actual matching solution necessarily in place.
Problems scale much faster than the solution.
That's right. Absolutely. So that's something we should double click on with a bell. Those in the audience, please take a picture with us before we get onto the next section. And then I'm going to rapid fire. This is going to be a fun part. Rapid fire the innovation section. Each person has 30 seconds to answer. Okay? This is a cool one. So I see Gary's folks in the audience. Should take a picture of us. Everyone smile for the camera. And we're going to go rapid fire mode. Oh, I see the photographer going over there. Okay, smile. Oh, we'll do a standing picture at the end. Okay, you got it? Okay, cool. And then this is the fun video, fun one. Okay, so I'm going to start by asking Gary, and then I'll popcorn out that way. So what breakthrough is exciting you the most, and what overhyped trend kind of concerns you? And you can also break through a little further. What breakthroughs do you anticipate will most fundamentally reshape industries? And where do you think the hype actually outpaces reality?
The breakthrough I'm most excited about is what Terminal 3 happens to be working on. I'm a little biased here. It's a technology called verifiable credentials. It's a way to allow for information to be verified without the actual data itself being revealed. And especially when paired with cutting-edge cryptography, which also is our area of expertise, we can now achieve a lot more with private data than we've ever been able to do before. And this is extremely important for the scaling of artificial intelligence, especially the agent ecosystem. Now, where is it hyped? Agents are supposed to have changed our lives already by now, but the reality is that they won't for many more years. Okay? They don't have enough training data to actually understand what we need on a daily basis as human beings to make decisions. There's also policy and regulation that is going to slow down this innovation, I think, for the better. And so I think agents are going to start to scale in the boring things first that we don't see. Literally, business-to-business interactions, like a company buying toilet paper through a procurement office, that is going to become automated by AI agents much faster than robots hanging out in our houses and doing housework. Right? Now, that future is coming. I'm so excited about that. But we need to do the boring things first.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of systems running in the background invisibly. That is actually spot on the nose. And I think we should talk later because I have a portfolio company, Lucia Protocol, where we keep the data private and then we 10x it so that brands as well as individuals can keep it private, have the ownership, and then be able to monetize on their privacy and data. Over to you now, Noel. Same question.
So I'm going to actually mix a little bit
What
about
you're jazzed about and the hype part that you're not as jazzed about.
The hype, I think, is ethics and AI. I think that it's a little bit of an oxymoron at the moment, and trying to find the best ways to insert ethics into the AI process. And I'm going to give an example. Is that well, I'm going to do what Gary did. What we do at Insight Genesis, I'm not pushing the project, but I'm going to explain a little bit what we do. We do at Insight Genesis is that we create hyper-personalized insights about yourselves, if you use the system, through a 30-second scan of your face, your voice, your footprint. We come up with information about yourself that is so hyper-personalized that you probably don't know most of it. Banks are already using this information to create scoring for underbanked people in order to know how much are they going to, what is their propensity to return a loan if they're given a loan. And it's surprisingly accurate, right? So we have banks already using this technology. And it's used in education. Do you have a propensity to be more of a tech, a science? A lot of kids at 18 years old, they don't know exactly what they want to do yet. These AI systems, this information around a lot of AI systems can tell you more about yourself than you actually know. HR companies are now using these kind of systems to look at applicants, the way they behave, their behaviors, their strengths, their weaknesses. That can all be determined through a 30 second, 40 second, 1 minute scan from your voice. AI can get that from you and give that to HR agencies and HR companies. And I'm not even talking about.
Noel, you're so efficient. You did that in under 1 minute.
So I got to go.
No, that was
quicker.
perfect.
And I'm not even talking about health, right? You can get about 40 biomarkers about yourself with just an AI scan on your face, 30 seconds, right? So there's so much information about you, and what is the ethics behind that? And the biggest struggle that we have, the way that I see it, is really privacy, security, and safety of your data. I think that is. There's a lot of other ethical information, but if we can solve that problem, it's already a huge problem that is being solved. One way of doing that is through decentralization. Now, obviously, we're Web3 here, so it's through decentralization, and that solves a lot of issues.
Noel, I think actually you brought up a great point because I'm going to pivot with Lance because I feel like you guys have given really great explications of the hype versus. So you actually touched upon, which I think is very important, and I'll lead into my next section on ethics a little bit. But Lance, what do you see as barriers to equitable innovation? Because from a global lens point of view, you talked about underbanked just now, and then also you talked about access, Gary. So I'm going to pose it to you, Lance. How do we ensure all this innovation isn't just for the wealthy in terms of open source, proprietary, other tensions like compute access, talent development? Can you answer to how we can make sure this is?
Well, that's a very difficult question, actually.
Well, you're segueing into my next section.
Well, this part is, I think sometimes even more than ethics. It's business model. Oh. Yeah, because I think Gary just mentioned earlier, right? The big corporate using your data to generate revenue. And then maybe they also take over your job. Then what's good to the economy? I think there's something that we all have to figure it out. And also to Noel, you also mentioned decentralized of the data. I think it's also the same thing because you should have control of your data. You should give the power of data back to us, basically. But how are we going to do that? So someone needs to do something. And I know there's some of the company in Europe is already doing this. So they basically create a business model, could be a token, could be in a Web3 token, to give, for every usage of the AI model, they give the money as a token back to the I know the citizen or something. Yeah, so so we have to be very creative, especially in Hong Kong, because we are supposed to be a very open society and very open economy. We can bridge mainland and also the overseas together to create this kind of model. We could have create a sandbox, just basically work on the business model.
I love this. So basically the idea for access of making sure the company from the ground up includes those ethical models and all the new, everyone can't be like, oh, Web3 is an afterthought, AI is an afterthought. We have to integrate all that in. That brings to mind, so I really must talk to you all afterwards. I'm working with a global company, NCU-Fi, NAPTO. They're Hong Kong and Taiwan and Greater China based. They're actually a way for everyone to be able to reduce the carbon footprint, monetize good actions, and refinance back into really good global projects, including some land that is being developed in other developing nations, as well as we're working with some of the biggest banks and real estate developers around the world. So I'm going to also talk now about deployment then, in response to ethics and execution. So I'm going to go to you first, Noel, because I think you had a little time to think. Bounce back to Gary. So, and then I might go, I'm going to save you guys because there's going to be a human autonomy versus AI autonomy question in this section. So in terms of responsible deployment, should companies ever not deploy the models they've developed? As in, like, I mean, the technology might be ahead, but the ethics and governance are not there yet, right? So do you have some examples? Should we have ethics boards in place? I mean, we are on ethics and governance. Should we be having separate boards on this? Noel, you first.
So I think there's a lot of opinions here. So this is going to be a POV, right? It's going to be a point of view. I'm a strong believer that we cannot hold back on the advancement of technology until we get all the ethics and the governance in place. So that we should definitely advance on the AI space. But there are some tools that can be implemented in the meantime that you can combine. Like if you do combine, again, I'm going to go back to decentralization with AI because that gives the data and the insights back to the people. So if you combine decentralization with government regulatory frameworks, you can actually get to places that, that make the system very efficient and workable until better and more robust regulatory frameworks are put in place. So I think we should definitely, companies should definitely go ahead with deploying AI, absolutely. And that we should be looking at, I'm not going to say catch up, but in parallel, developing the ethical and regulatory frameworks that need to go with it.
I love that. Then I'm actually going to flip it over to Gary in terms of my bias and fairness question. So how do we balance performance and fairness? Who defines the fairness, aside from people who are heading up corporations like us? Who defines fairness? And how does this play out in real-life critical situations?
This is a great way to frame the difference between Web3 and AI as distinct industries, and to explain why I personally believe, and I'm going to guess that Noah and Lance also believe, that the responsible scale of artificial intelligence worldwide requires Web3 technologies, decentralization, and blockchain. Okay, so the main difference is that when it comes to Web3, Web3 was decentralized. Web3 is, by definition, the decentralized internet. The entire technology is built and owned and operated by a network, a community of people, and because of network consensus, ostensibly, we're doing better for the world, right? There is a level of community control that says we are all here as participants to make this world better. Artificial intelligence, because of how much it has always cost to develop AI, and especially now, with how ridiculous chips, AI chips now cost, because NVIDIA has cornered the entire market, artificial intelligence is the playground of only the richest companies in the world. And they are building these models and deploying this technology for their own benefit, not for the rest of the world. The greatest nonprofit that was supposed to have ever existed for technology, OpenAI, is now a for-profit company. That should tell you everything about AI. So, these two industries and how they view their responsibilities for the rest of the world, fundamentally different. How do we fix AI and make sure that AI is not the villain in the story, but rather the hero? Decentralized technologies have to now be core to the deployment and the responsible application of artificial intelligence. That's what Noel is working on. That's what Lance and Hong Kong Science and Technology Park is working on. I do want to believe that that's what Terminal 3 is working on as well. So AI should not scale without decentralized tech and the decentralized community.
I love that because we're also talking about open access, open accountability, building open systems. Before I toss it back to Lance, I actually want you all as partners and judges. I'm running a hackathon on the Bitcoin ecosystem for Open Ordinal. They are the Bitcoin App Store.
What are you
Superstore.
not doing, Jennifer?
What?
It must be easier to just talk about what you're not doing.
What I'm not doing. I just want to make sure there's everything, every prong fixed. Because actually, last time I saw you in Switzerland, one of the things we were talking about is having open dialogue, open access, cross-border. I would say Gary is like, actually all of us, we are really centralized to making sure that we're bringing Hong Kong and Greater China to the world and the world in. And then what you just said is actually really good. I feel like we have a perfect script. By the way, 10 more minutes, guys. So thank you for your patience. If you want to take a quick stretch break, you can. I'm going to throw this question over to Lance because just now Gary really teed me up. I feel like we have ESP or something. But anyway, so he's talking a lot about the accountability. Now I'm going to talk from the human autonomy standpoint. So, and then also allude to what you talked about, Noel, in terms of the personalization systems, right? Whether it comes to our health data, our financial data, our own data, right? So, Lance, do you think right now the current personalization systems are enhancing or undermining choice, whether that's individual choice or from a business point of view, and then all the systems working together? And then where is the line? We're talking about line in the sand. Where is this line between helpful and manipulative? So bring in any regulatory angles you're seeing.
Another difficult questions.
Sorry,
He's talking about
am I not the best
level
moderator?
of
Asking tough questions. End of the day, guys, wake up.
So, yeah, he's talking about the level of human in the loop. Yeah, I think, basically. So, actually, there's no real guide.
I have to ask the systems guy a human question.
Yeah, and you are right about like whether AI is actually removing those choices from the people. Honestly, and that's exactly why we need the AI model to be bias free as much as possible, because we cannot we need knick-knack. Let's say if the model is really benefiting like certain type of people, then we have to really balance it out. And however, the world doesn't work this way. Yeah. And I think even now, I think a lot of companies, they just simply adopt the AI, but doesn't mean the AI model's bias really fit into their situation. And imagine in a hospital, who will go to the hospital? Like maybe elderly, mostly, yeah, and also child, for example. But rather the model really help to, to make it less biased to like the people, to maybe only the wealthy people that they might be able to afford afford the hospital services. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of different like way to measure. And for us, one of the things that we need to do, we always emphasize is that to test and to assess. Yeah, so I think it's also in a lot of AI framework, it always emphasizes this. So in the whole AI life cycle, you have to keep assessing whether the result is actually optimal. Also need to keep testing against the actual situation. So I think a lot of companies, they shouldn't just go ahead and adopt AI. They should test parallel one for a while to have a look if there's any issue. And another key point is how they respond to issue. The right to be forgotten, the right to respond to not be processed by AI. I think these are the things that we have to give the right back to the people. Yeah.
I really love everyone's questions because you have actually answered several questions at a time. I'm going to open up to our illustrious audience because I have future questions that I'm going to ask our amazing panelists to wrap up. We have a little more than 6.5 minutes to go. Does anyone want to ask anything? It's open mic time. Literally AMA, while you have us all prisoners on the stage, we will answer anything. Okay, if you'd like to, then come up to the stage. I'm going to go into my final question mode. Okay, you guys have been amazing panelists. One of the things I also wanted to talk about, because you guys talked about AI and ethics, and I wanted to briefly touch upon, is that Yacht and Sebastian, I saw Sebastian earlier, they're always warning me when people are impersonating me, because I was what you call doxed before, because I was a pianist, actress, model from a very young age, and my pictures keep appearing, anywhere from Coffee Meets Bagel to weird sites to startup decks who are pitching me where I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I'm already advising a team. That's amazing, and that I invested already, right? So from that point of view, as a creator, builder, investor, this is very salient. I was on a panel yesterday about AI and entertainment. So I think it's very important that we all look to ourselves inwardly and figure out what we can do, because as Gary put it himself, and as Noel and Lance said, we're all part of the solution. We can't, and then we have to create and invest and build technologies that are human-centric, not AI-centric. We're not building for the sake of building. We're building so we can help people, right? And then one of my AI companies, they're the ones that delivered a lot of food and everything during the pandemic before they became humanoid, right? And then there was another one that was a precursor in human, I call it human tech, because we're not all born on the blockchain, and medical data is very important. So they were the precursor to the mRNA vaccine, and it's also in the cancer space, right? So one of these things is we have to make sure that it's always impactful in helping us. Because are we serving AI? No. And then AI, as you all know, stands for, in Chinese, I. It means love, right? So we have to make sure that we're building all of our products and investing in companies and founders and funders with love. So with that being the case, my final question wrap-up will be here. And you guys feel free to answer. And then if anyone has any pressing questions, you can come and ask us afterwards. This is actually this is the long horizon question. So I'm going to start off with Lance, and I'll save Gary for the end. And then you guys each have about a minute to answer. Great. So in terms of the long horizon, do you think the existential risks from AI outweigh the near-term societal risks, like job displacement, misinformation? That's the first question. The second question is, if you were designing one new international institution today to handle, what would the mandate be?
So for me, I think the job replacement is really happening. Yeah, and in fact, we try, because as a Hong Konger, I want to be very open. Yeah, and economy is not doing so well. Yeah, and we all looking into way to really to cut the cost. For example, yeah, even very honestly, HKSTP are doing something similar as well, because the government funding has been reducing. Yeah, so we all have to be more efficient, and and AI is almost a shortcut to that. And we all have our KPI to meet as well. So for a short fix, yes, maybe we can use AI, but we have to, in the long run, we have to think about like how we really transform our human force. Like for example, as Gary mentioned, there will be like more AI agent, right? So maybe in the future will be either a human resource department or some AI agent resource management department. Yeah, but people need to be educated. People need to be trained. The skill set need to be transformed. It takes time. And I think one of the things that Hong Kong need to do is that maybe Hong Kong can help to accelerate this. So education is the key. So I really hope that we all spend more effort on the skill transformation in the future. Yeah.
Love that. So Lance kind of wrapped it up with a bow, so I'll give you guys each different questions to kind of keep us on our toes. But what I heard is we can't look for short-term Band-Aid solutions. Long-term education and then properly executing and learning by doing is the way we can solve for the long-term horizon. So Noel, I'm going to ask you a question because you and I are having a spirited debate beforehand, and actually some of the pictures I took of us and previous things went viral in the women in tech groups I'm in, as well as the women in VC and investment groups I'm in. And also I sent a few pictures to my investment committee, 100 of us, and they were like, that's interesting. So what do you think in terms of Web3 and AI for us as women who are stakeholders and builders and players in the space? What can we do to make ourselves more visible and continuously relevant and not invisible?
Oh, that's a difficult question as well. Now you're sending one to me. So I actually haven't really thought about it, and I think it is a good question. I haven't really thought about how we can use it as women to empower us better. There is notably a very lack of women in not just Web3, but also in the AI space. And I think that the unbiased, so there's always the issue with AI that we talk about the bias, how AI is biased, and there is a bias, and that comes into this whole discussion about the ethical background behind AI. And I think that that's not going to be a short-term solution that's going to be resolved today. But I'm hoping that with, I think, decentralization, and I'm going to go back to decentralization because I'm a strong believer that it is a way to remove the bias out of AI as well. So decentralized AI is a big step towards governance and ethical AI. And then once you've gone to that step, then it's actually going to be having to go further. But already implementing decentralized AI is going to take a long time. So we're not there yet. Hopefully
We are not there yet. And those of you ladies in the audience, I want you to make sure you guys are on panels in the future. We shouldn't have just like a women moderator, one token female panelist. No, 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 no. So you guys make sure that you are serving on boards, that you're investing in building companies yourselves, and that you are part of the C-suite. And with that being said, I'm going to give Gary a question. It's going to be a more personal question, and I'm going to make you guys do my signature sign-off at the end. So those of you in the audience, please record on video because it's actually a really cool one. It involves space travel because we actually have invested in space as well. All right, so Gary, this is my question for you. If you could turn back time and give your, because I know we're all overachievers here on stage. You could turn back time and teleport back to Gary a decade ago. What would you tell yourself? Armed with the wisdom you have now, what would you tell yourself and what would you say to do differently?
In any category?
Oh, no, sorry. Let's keep it to business and technology. And then obviously AI is a part of it, but you can frame it how you would. Because I've been asking a lot of people a lot of tough questions, so this is a...
I mean, I tell myself to buy more Bitcoin. Isn't that the answer that everyone here would give?
Yes, that is actually, well, in terms of also, what would you tell your younger self in terms of like building companies? I know you're an amazing entrepreneur. You served on C-suite and everything. What would you tell yourself if you had more time? Because I gave a TEDx talk before how time is new currency. And I want to thank the lovely audience, too, before he launches question. Thank you for spending the last 40 minutes with us, because that is time in your lives you will never get back. Over to you, Gary.
More time doesn't help. It's the right time that matters. So I think that with the wisdom of 10 years, I would know over the course of the last decade what was the right moment to do what. And you know, when it did happen in the last 10 years, it was by luck. If I were to go back, then it would be by design. So.
Buy more Bitcoin. You heard it. I mean, also, guys, if you haven't, you can DCA into things. Okay, now that I'm going to chill, I'm going to now count down my illustrious team. And then whoever is an audience with a video, please video it because this is a very, very cool countdown. And, okay, so in order of my countdown, we're going to go like this. 10, 9, 8, 7, like that. You're going to count down, and then I'm going to give my sign off at the end, okay? All right, and then we'll be ready for group pictures. Okay, 10. 5,
4,
3,
1, and we have liftoff. May you teleport safely into your next panel. Well, this is the last panel of the day. So, or your next virtual engagement, or your next physical engagement, or whatever conference or airport flight you have to make that you have next. We wish you safety as you buckle in, and hope you'll join us back in my spaceship. I'm sorry, in this teleportation chamber next time. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you wherever you are in this world. Thank you for joining us.